Today we're going to build up a system, EVGA 980 Ti hybrid with old PC that found on Kijiji, and switch the CPU, add a SSD, and do some game testing. Hi, I'm Dunk. Welcome to Respawn PC. So first off, on the fast forward, we're going to dismantle completely the 980 Ti, remove the monster dusting that's in there, and replace the card, and going to build a system with it to be able to resell this system as soon as possible, doing some game testing before selling it. Now this card is the EVGA GTX 980 Ti hybrid, which is clocked at 1140 MHz and boost at 1228, which is different than the base model, which is a base clock at 1000 MHz and boost clock at 1076. So this card is already overclock. Now I'm going to pair that card with the whole system. It's a Intel i5 2500 with a 16 GB of DDR3, and I'm going to add a SSD in it to make it at least load the game faster. I already know that the PC, at least the CPU, is going to bottleneck the card like it never seen a bottleneck before. But for the lack of having a Gen 3 or Gen 4 Intel CPU, or equivalent of AMD, we're going to try anyway with that system. I'm not going to sell a system with that card in it, but the card is already sold in another system. I already cleaned that Thermal Tech desktop that I received. It's on a video that's going to come in probably the next video, I guess. I'm going to test the 560 Ti and the 480 from Asus from the last video. But right now, because I already sold that 980 Ti in a system, I'm going to make that video with that card right away before I jump to the next video, which will be the 560 Ti and 480. Now I'm going to build a system with a brand new Azaz 650 watt power supply, the cleanup fan, 16 gig of memory, the new i5 2500, for sure the GTX hybrid 980 Ti with the radiator, and all the drive that came with, just to check if they're functional. The new fan that was in the box, I hope the bracket is there, and the Acer motherboard. Now here the system all built up. I was trying to match all the color, all blue. The CPU is blue, the SATA cable blue, some kind of blue here and there on the power supply, and the damn front fan is red only. So I guess I'll need to work some magic to make that all red, I guess, or trying a blue fan. When power up the system, it's actually a gateway from Acer. And see, we can find out the i5 2500 at 3.3 GHz, 4 core, 16 gigabit of DDR3. Don't forget, I'm going to test today are Cyberpunk 2077, Forza 5, Biomutant, and Battlefield 2042. Mind that all those games been tested at the minimum settings, some at medium settings, because of the CPU bottleneck. So let's start with the Cyberpunk. For Cyberpunk, I could have cranked a little bit the graphic, but the CPU at 95% of utilization, I was a bit skeptical about how far I can go. The GPU handled it quite well for its age, I guess, at 53 FPS, some dip at 30 and 40. If you jump in the car and drive around the city, you get around 50 FPS, CPU still pin almost at 100%. GPU still have a easy time at 64% of utilization with only 3 GB of its 6 GB in use. It gets even better if you get out of a nice city and reach the desert which you're going to be at 60 FPS, and the CPU is going in the 90% of utilization. So it's playable, it's not the best you can get, and for playing on an i5 2500 you should maybe look for something way younger, regardless of the graphic card you put in. Next up we have Forza 5. Everything at low, some medium here and there, and we reach a 60 FPS consistently-ish. CPU is get pinned easily at 100%, but the game is highly pliable at this frame rate. The graphic card is 70 to 80% usage. I'd say that's a nice win, even though the CPU again is bottlenecking the graphic card, so a better CPU will make you play with higher frame rate, or at least better quality video. And if you play the Forza 5 with the collaboration with Hot Wheels, you can see that the game is handled quite well with a consistent of 50 to 60 FPS, and the CPU in the 80 to 90% of utilization. That's a nice combo. Again, the settings is still at a low and some medium here and there. Better CPU will get you better FPS and better quality of graphics. Next up we have Biomutant, which run quite well with the i5 2500, with not using the 100% of the CPU. And the same go for the graphics card, reaching a 60 FPS constantly. I say this game is a win for a AAA game that is not really old. Mind again that all the settings are at low, some medium. I guess I could have cranked a bit the graphics for this game to be better visually. And while playing this game I noticed a small humming coming from the sound, regardless if I put the speaker or my capture card or my headphone. Seems the audio card on the motherboard is busted. Had to dedicate the sound card to make the sound disappear. Not the sound, I mean the humming. And lastly, we have Battlefield 2042. This game was really hard for the CPU. It was pinned at 100% all the time and getting between 35 to 55 FPS. The GPU was waiting to receive instruction from the CPU, which was always pinned at 100%. That's literally what you can call a bottleneck from the CPU. The game was playable, but for a competitive game like this, it's really unacceptable frame rate. You should maybe downgrade to older Battlefield, like a 3 or 4. That CPU really don't like Battlefield 2042. But hey, I still managed to get some kill here and there. Had some fun anyway. That was it for the 980 Ti hybrid from EVGA. I could have kept this card for myself since my daily driver is a 1660 Ti, and as you can see it's a little bit more performant than my current card, and I'm running it on a laptop, so there's no way I can fit that 980 Ti in my laptop. Thanks to have come watching. Next video will be the 560 Ti and the 480 from Asus.